Good morning, everyone. Today, I am going to present conditional sentences and explain how they help us connect situations with their results. We use conditionals to talk about facts, real possibilities, imaginary situations, advice, regrets, and consequences from the past. In this presentation, I will explain 5 main forms: the zero, first, second, third, and mixed conditionals. My objective is to make the difference between these forms clear and practical, so that we can choose the correct structure according to the meaning we want to express. Conditional sentences are important because they help us explain relationships between events and outcomes. They allow us to say what always happens, what may happen in the future, what we imagine, or what could have happened differently. In most conditional sentences, the word if introduces the condition. The verb form then changes according to the level of reality and the time reference. So, instead of memorizing formulas separately, we can understand conditionals as a logical system that connects a situation with its consequence. Every conditional sentence has 2 basic parts. The first part is the condition clause, which explains the situation introduced by if. The second part is the result clause, which explains what happens, may happen, or would happen as a consequence. For example, in if the shop is open, she will buy some chocolate. The shop being open is the condition and buying chocolate is the result. We can also reverse the order. She will buy some chocolate if the shop is open. The meaning stays the same. When the if clause comes first, we normally use a comma. The zero conditional is used for general truths, facts, routines, and results that are predictable. Its form is if plus present simple, present simple. For example, if I do not use sun cream, I get sunburn. This means that the result normally happens whenever the condition occurs. We can also use the zero conditional to give instructions. In if you need help, call me, the second clause is an imperative. The key idea is that the zero conditional describes what generally happens, rather than making a prediction about one specific future event. The first conditional is used for realistic or possible future situations and their likely consequences. Its form is if plus present simple will plus base verb. For example, if it rains, we will stay inside. Rain is a real possibility, and staying inside is the expected result. Notice that the if clause uses the present simple even though the meaning refers to the future. We can also say, you will pass the exam if you study hard. The first conditional presents a possible cause and effect relationship in the future. The second conditional is used for hypothetical, unlikely, or imaginary situations in the present or future. Its form is if plus past simple would plus base verb. For example, if I won the lottery, I would buy a new house. Winning the lottery is possible but unlikely, so the sentence expresses imagination rather than a prediction. We also use the second conditional to give advice. The expression, if I were you, I would call her means that I am imagining myself in another person's situation. In careful English, were is commonly used in this expression. The third conditional is used to imagine a different result from a past event that did not happen. Its form is if plus past perfect would have plus past participle. For example, if you had called, I would have come. The sentence tells us that you did not call, and therefore I did not come. Another example is, if she had studied more, she would have passed the exam. This conditional is useful for expressing regret, missed opportunities, criticism, and reflection. Because the past has already happened, the condition is impossible to change. In a third conditional sentence, the result clause does not always have to use would have. We can also use could have and might have to express different meanings. Would have presents the expected imagined result. Could have suggests an ability or opportunity that was possible, as in, if he had not broken his leg, he could have been a professional dancer. Might have expresses a less certain possibility, as in, if you had told her you were free, she might have invited you to dinner. These modal verbs help us communicate more precise shades of meaning. Mixed conditionals are used when the condition and the result refer to different times. A common pattern describes an unreal past condition and a present consequence. The form is often, if plus past perfect would plus base verb. For example, You would not have a headache if you had drunk enough water. The lack of water happened in the past, but the headache exists in the present. Another example is, if she had made a different decision, her life would be different today. Mixed conditionals show how a past action or decision can continue to influence the present. To choose the correct conditional, I ask two questions. How real is the situation, and when does it happen? If the sentence describes a general fact or routine result, I use the zero conditional. If it describes a realistic future possibility, I use the first conditional. If it describes an unlikely or imaginary present or future situation, I use the second conditional. If it describes an impossible past alternative, I use the third conditional. Finally, if the condition and the result refer to different times, I use a mixed conditional. This approach is more useful than memorizing formulas without understanding their meaning. There are several common mistakes with conditionals. First, in the standard first conditional, we do not normally use will immediately after if. We say, if it rains, we will stay inside, not if it will rain. Second, we should not confuse would with an ordinary real future result. Third, the third conditional requires had plus past participle in the if clause. We say, if she had studied, she would have passed, not if she would have studied. Finally, the result clause uses would have plus past participle. Checking the time and reality of the condition helps us avoid these errors. To conclude, conditional sentences are practical tools for expressing facts, predictions, imagination, advice, regret, and consequences. The zero conditional describes facts. The first conditional describes real future possibilities. The second conditional describes hypothetical situations and advice. The third conditional looks back at unreal past events, while mixed conditionals connect different times. The most important strategy is to identify the reality, the probability, and the time reference before choosing the verb form. Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation has made conditional sentences clearer and easier to use with confidence. Short closing line. Thank you for listening. I would be happy to answer any questions.